Okay, so here we are in Mixcraft, and this week's assignment is going to expect us to take our Let It Be song and turn it into a different song simply by changing the rhythm. So as you can see here, I've got my Let It Be song, and what I've done is I've muted the original drums and tambourine that I had in my Let It Be. And you can listen to my original Let It Be on the website. It's out there as a demonstration or an example of what you can do. So what we're going to do here is, as you can see, I have my Let It Be tracks, and what I did is I added 4 jazz kit tracks. Now typically if you were doing this, you might put the whole percussion section into one track. But I have split them into 4 tracks because I want to be able to control the sound for each element of the drum kit. And you'll see how that works out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make this Let It Be a little more jazzy. So after listening to the video that we had in class, you should be able to now play with this a little bit. So I'm going to go to my jazz kit and I'm going to click on the first section, and by clicking on this I can get the sound tab to show up, and then you can see here that I have all of my drum kit elements, and the first one I want to look at is the ride cymbal. So I'm going to come down here and I see ride cymbal. Now remember that the ride cymbal is one of the most important elements in the jazz kit. So that's the one I'm going to do first. So I could just start clicking on the sections here. But remember that a jazz kit really focuses on a triplet feel. So we've got to come over here and make sure that we're snapping to 8th note triplets. And if I condense this just a little bit, you can see here are my first 4 beats, because we are in 4/4. Here are my first 4 beats, and notice now, because I've snapped to a triplet, I have a subdivision of 3 within each beat. So I'm going 1er and 2er and 3er and 4er and 1er and 2er and 3er and 4er. So I've got that triplet feel. So what I'm going to do here on the ride cymbal is I'm going to click on the first beat, I'm going to click on the second beat, I'm going to click on the third beat, and click on the fourth beat. And now to give it a real jazz ride feel, I'm going to click on the third part of the second beat. I'm going to click on the third part of that second beat and the third part of the fourth beat. So we're going to get that. So let's listen to that and see what that sounds like. Okay, now the other parts are a little bit loud, so I'm going to just cut them out temporarily so we can really listen and focus on this jazz beat. So here it is. Okay, so you can see what we've got here. Now in order to get that to repeat, let me just take the loop and bring the loop down so that we're only going to repeat that first section, and then I'll drag this out a little bit. So we're going to get okay, so you can see how that ride cymbal is giving us that quality of that. Of course, we might want to change that to a different element, maybe a hi-hat or something, but this is just a demonstration. Okay, so now that I have that one, I could go ahead and put my second most important piece, which is the hi-hat, into this same track. But remember, I'm going to try to keep them separate so that I can change the volumes on each of them. So I'm going to call it quits for that one, and I'm going to come down to my second jazz kit. And again, I click on the white space here, and that will bring me down to my track that I can adjust. So now I'm going to come, oh, isn't that wonderful? My virus protection has claimed that I am safe, so that's a wonderful thing. Okay, now we come over here to our hi-hat, and I'm looking for the closed hi-hat, which should be here somewhere. Let's see if I can find this. There's an open hi-hat and there's a closed hi-hat. If you have good eyesight, you're a lot better off than I am. So here we are in the closed hi-hat, and what do we want to do here? Let's go on the 2 and on the 4. So now if I play this, I have a little bit of an accent on the 2 and 4. Again, the loop is closed, so it will just repeat this first measure. So if I just bring this out, I can listen to it and really get it. Okay, so we have our hi-hat and we have our ride cymbal. The next thing we want to do is we want to put in the snare. So if I come over here and look for the snare drum, you can see that I can put the snare drum in, and this is really up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to try it on 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. And I might try it over here on the and of 4, which will give me a little bit of syncopation. So let's see how that looks. Now you can see that I have put that out now into a 4-beat measure, and let's take a listen. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. You might want to put a little bit of a roll on that snare on measure 4. That's up to you. But we're looking at the basics here. Finally, I'm going to go and add a bass drum. So I'm going to click down here, and I'm going to click on this bottom. And we don't want to do a lot with the bass drum, because the bass drum, we don't want it to take away from the whole picture. So I will just go here. Here's a bass drum. Let's listen. Maybe I'll choose this one here. And I'm just going to go on the first beat. And that's it. And we will drag this out. And let's see what we've got. Okay, so that's pretty simple. I mean, you can experiment with that, do some syncopation maybe on the and of 4 and see how that sounds. Okay, maybe you like something like that, but it's always up to you. Now, let's listen to this and let's adjust the sounds on it. And I'm going to just turn on the loop indicator so that we can just keep this looping. And now, so with this looping, we can listen and we can adjust some of this. Now, what's nice about this is we can make this into a real live performance by taking the ride cymbal and bringing it over to the right where it would be on the drum set, and taking the hi-hat and bringing it over to the left where it would be. And if you've got stereo speakers, you can really get a feel for this. Now the snare is going to be just to the left of the drummer, and of course the bass is just slightly to the right. So I think I've got that right. And now you've got basically a set of drums in stereo that's almost like you're sitting right in front of it. Again, we can adjust the volumes, maybe bring up on the hi-hat, maybe make the cymbal, make sure the cymbal is just loud enough so it's effective. And with the snare, you don't want the snare too much to be taking over, but you want to bring the snare down tastefully. Again, the bass drum not too loud, because this is jazz. Now, what you can also do, of course, is change the lines. Go to beat 2 and make beat 2 come up a little bit, make beat 3 come down, and make beat 4 come up a little bit. So you're getting that little 2 and 4 effect. Again, on the hi-hat, you can do the same thing. Bring it down on beat 3 and bring it up on beat 4. So these are all things you can experiment with until you really get the sound that you want. Okay, Let's see how this sounds now. I'm going to stop that, and let's see how this sounds with our piece. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to open up the guitar track and we'll see what this sounds like. Okay, now that may or may not sound great to you. You can make it slower by changing the beats per minute. You can do a lot of different things, but this is basically just a demonstration to show you what the expectation is for this week. We want to again create a percussion line for the existing song. We want to add 4 different percussion tracks, put one instrument on each track so that you have the ability to adjust volume, panning, different things, and then see what you can do with it. And see if you can make this Let It Be take on a completely new quality that the McCartney and Lennons never even thought of. So have fun with this and let me know if there are any questions in class. Thanks a lot.